right. Welcome everyone. This is the Great Simulator. I had a recent subscriber yesterday. Um, Wanted to know if I had a video on how I got into expediting, and she gave me an idea to make this video. So I'm gonna talk to you about how exactly I got into expediting. This is a great website to go to. This is how I got into it the first time with XPO Logistics, and this is how I got into it the second time with Boat Express. There's so many different resources on this website, um, so many different articles, interviews, what to expect in the business for owner operators, you know, different tips and advice, like by the crafty trucker right here. I remember watching her when I first started, or they're a team actually, Heather and Jason, and this is amazing. The transformation that she's did. She's pretty much the go to person for expediting. She's like the poster child, I guess you could say. Certain events that's going on, like the expo that's coming up in July. Now, me personally, I'm not out on the road anymore. But if I was, I probably would have went to that. Part of me still wants to go to it. I still might. I don't know. Depends how finances and stuff go. But you can search for jobs on this website, just simply by going, to any of these little things here. I usually start off here. It tells you like here, you know, they're wanting to look for contract drivers, straight truck fleet owners. You know, uh, it's just a bunch of ads for people that are looking for drivers like yourself. You can go to classifies. Sometimes this is usually where I go to, because you can post your own ad, you know, um, looking for work. Now you could do it through here. You could do it through Craigslist. But the expediting or expeditors expo, definitely, if you can go to it, go to it, because there's going to be so many different carriers there pitching their company, to prospective drivers. I've never been to one personally. I missed the one when I was with XPO, but if you go there, you can definitely find out a lot of information. And then going there will allow you to find information um, through different drivers, which that is one of the key things in being successful in the world of expediting, is being able, to get stories from other drivers, to get their experience, and you will start to notice that as you talk to these different drivers, you know, you will start to notice a pattern. You will start to know places where you go, places where you don't go, with any company. Um, so with that being said, communication is key. Don't be one of those, drivers that, you know, when they get to a truck stop, they don't say that to anybody. Because if you don't say anything, you won't know what's going on. So you got this section here, driver available. You got this section here where fleet owners are reaching out, looking for drivers. This is how I found my fleet owner, out of Flint, Michigan, and he was the first person I contacted. It first person wrote me back, and he was a great fleet owner. Unfortunately, he's no longer with Boat. I don't think he might have one more van with Boat. That he's probably gonna switch over to a different company. But yeah, this is key right here. You can look here as well. Also, you can browse your local Craigslist. As I said before, sometimes you'll find somebody on there looking for an expediter. Not a whole lot, but this is definitely the main website, you know, that you want to go to. All right, so what is expediting? Expediting is, less than truckload freight. Um, what that means is that, like, you got your cargo vans in place that can haul, up to two standard pallets. And then you have your sprinter vans that can haul up to three pallets. Then your straight trucks that can haul more than that. It it's truckloads that really makes no sense for a 53 footer to haul. You would never see a 53 footer haul just 3 pallets, unless they got multiple stops and they only got 3 pallets left on their truck. It's time critical freight, meaning that this box or this pallet or sometimes this envelope, I've hauled things, as light as a manila folder. I've hauled as heavy as 3,000 pounds. I've hauled a little old box of nails, literally like your standard Amazon box. I've delivered that. You'd be surprised what you haul. I've hauled nothing but pieces of paper. I've hauled newspapers. Automotive. Mostly it was automotive, but you transport different things that might seem weird to you. That people spend hundreds of dollars to send across the country or to send over to the next state or what have you. But they need to get they need that freight to get there by a certain time, to the point where if they was to ship it any other way, it would take too long. Usually, if it's a load that is automotive, part for whoever, typically they're shipping it through you to get to the receiver in a timely manner because they need that part to continue their line. Let's say, their line shut down because the part was faulty. Now they have to wait until the shipper sends out a new part and they need it there before that shift the next day. And that's where you come in at. You take that load down there and bam, they can start their line back up. They say that typically when a line is stopped in the automotive industry, that it could cost up to $10,000 for a line to be stopped just for a short amount of time. So it's important and it's essential for the driver to pick up this freight and to be at the destination on time. Usually you have plenty of time built into how long you have to get there. And what I mean by that is you could make it easy. You could have a 120-mile run, which normally if you're driving regular speed, even in a van, under load, it would typically take you just about an hour, 50 minutes, maybe hour 45 minutes, but they build in, let's say 3 hours. They allow you 3 hours to get there. So they do build in time so that you can get there, but it's still quicker than any other method out there. It is a lifestyle. I have that highlighted because it is key. It is the number one most important thing about what is expediting. It is a lifestyle and it is not a job. And the sooner you as a driver can accept that, the better your experience will be in expediting. I had to learn that. This is not your 9 to 5. This is not get up at 9 o'clock, do your work, you're done at 5, you can sleep at 7. That is not expediting, which is coming into the next thing. It's a lifestyle of fluctuation. There are going to be times where you're going to be driving all day and then you can sleep at night. There's going to be times where you got to get up at 1 in the morning and drive all night. There are going to be times where they give you a near 2,000-mile load and they expect you to get it there in 2.5 days. There are times where they give you plenty of time for loads. I've had loads where I was 7 hours away and they built in 14 hours for me. But then there was also loads where they were 10 hours away and had to be here at 11. So, that's what expediting is. It's quick. It's quick. It could be a nasty process. It could be an ugly one. It's just as much as it's quick for the shipper to get his part to the receiver. It's just as quick as you being a driver and having to always be on your toes and having to get that part to where it needs to quick as well. Um, how to get into expediting. The biggest one is Expeditors Online. You see at the beginning of the video of the website, there's so many different things on there that you could browse and navigate through. Uh, there are tips, advices, interviews with fellow drivers, classifies where you could post if you're looking for a job or if you're looking for a fleet owner. The fleet owner could post if he's looking for a driver. I mean, there's so many different things to get into, so many different events you can find on there, like the Expo that's coming up in July. That's another big thing. For 2 days, you can go there. You can branch out with other drivers. You can meet the different companies, maybe meet different fleet owners. I mean, who knows? You could meet a fleet owner out there, and you could get a job, you know, or a lifestyle, I should say. It's not a job. Or you could get hired on, or what have you. But Expeditors Online, Expedite Expo is your two biggest things. You know, then you got your local Craigslist, which, you might find something on there. You might not. I mean, it's very rare that you do, but you never know. Just browse your local Craigslist ad. And then word of mouth. A lot of times when you're sitting at these truck stops, you will hear that, oh, my fleet owner is looking for a driver. You know, go and apply at this company, you know, because we're always running. And as you start to, you know, communicate with the drivers out there, you would know which companies are running and which companies are not. And not only that, just sit at the truck stop. If you sit there long enough, you'll see which vans are always there. You'll see which vans are coming in just to fill up and they keep moving. You will see vans that are only there for a few hours. You start to see these things, you know, but you have to be observant. You have to be open to communicate. And then that's how you get into expediting. What may you need to get into expediting? Definitely a DOT card. I think that's 95% across the board. And I said 95% because there are some companies out there that don't require it. Maybe especially if you're driving in a cargo van. I've ran into some companies that don't require a DOT medical card. Most of them do. If you already have one, great. If not, reach out to the company first. And that's key, because what you don't want to do is to try to get ahead of yourself, you know, which in some cases is good, but what you don't want to do is to go ahead and pay upwards of $100 for a DOT physical just to get with the company and they make you redo one. Now, in most cases, they'll pay for it and just charge you back for it, but there are some companies that may make you pay for it again. So you don't want to be that person that jumps ahead of the ball and go out and get a DOT physical, and then now you have to pay to get another one done because the company won't approve the one that you just did. There are places out there in expediting and in other fields. So if you have one already, that's great. If you don't, contact the company first and see what they want you to do. Some require CDL, at least a Class B. Some don't. Bolt didn't require it, but my fleet owner preferred it. So do remember that. Do keep that in mind. Some companies may not require it, but check with the fleet owner, because he may prefer you have one, or he may require that you have one. Because remember this, folks. Excuse me. At the end of the day, you work for the fleet owner. You don't work for the company. You don't work for Bolt. You don't work for XPO. You don't work for Load One. You work for the fleet owner. The fleet owner pays you. The company pays the fleet owner. He does his splits, takes out his fees or whatever, and you get paid through the fleet owner. So when you remember that, you keep that in mind. The company may not require that CDL, but he might. So do remember that. Patience. Gotta have patience with getting into expediting, because the application process can take up to a week. Bolt approved me in like a day. It could be as quick as a day, but it could be as long as a week, because while you are waiting, they are going to check everything. They're going to check your DMV motor vehicle records. They're going to check your background, your criminal background. They may even check your credit. Now, why credit? They're entrusting you with the $30,000 plus vehicle, which is likely brand new or close to new. They're entrusting you with this vehicle. Yeah, most will have trackers on there, but they're entrusted that you can handle this $30,000 vehicle, because anything can happen. There has been drivers that left the company unceremoniously and stole everything out of the van. It happens. So if you got anything on your record like theft, most places probably won't even bring you on, because there's a lot of equipment in the van that a fleet owner might have that he doesn't want stolen. And if you're that type of person, you're going to have a hard time getting hired with somebody. If you had a DUI, you're probably not going to get hired with anybody out there. I think that's probably a no-no. I want to say across the board. I could be wrong, but I think a DUI is definitely a no-no. Again, the company has a reputation they have to keep up. The fleet owner wants to keep his van. And another thing too, while you are on the clock per se, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but while you are available to take loads and you're in service, that's the word. While you're in service, you're not to consume any type of alcohol for the time you're in service. Most companies do random drug and alcohol tests, and no matter if you've been sitting at home for a week in service, if you take a drink and they pull you to go take a drug and alcohol test and you fail, guess what? You're done. That's it. No more. You're out of service. Find a way to get the van to the fleet owner. So I think DUI is definitely a no-no. If you have a problem with that, probably shouldn't get into expediting. Expect your fleet owner to reach out to you to fill out the contract and to set up travel arrangements. Now, it'll vary by the company. Bolt, for example, you can't drive the van until after day one of the orientation, and the reason why is because in orientation they have your insurance paperwork in orientation. So the van is usually already at Bolt. Sometimes the fleet owners might drive it down to Bolt in Toledo or to the other facilities, but you yourself cannot get into the vehicle until you're technically insured in orientation. Some fleet owners, will pay for your Greyhound to get there, and an Amtrak or a flight. Sometimes they would do that. Sometimes they'll make you pay for it, so do expect that too. There is a lot of money that a fleet owner invests in a prospective driver. They have a high turnover rate, but there's so much money that goes into a driver that if a driver quits, within like 6 months, that fleet owner loses out on so much money. Because this fleet owner has to, pay, for, deposits, and they have to pay for you to get up there, to orientation. They sometimes have to pay for all your fees up front. And I mean, it's just so many different things that go into that. But all that your fleet owner usually discusses with you while you're waiting to be approved. But usually most fleet owners will pay your way to orientation. So do expect that. What to expect? on day one of expediting orientation, pretty much, you're gonna have a lot of classroom work. Like some companies split it over 2 or 3 days. Boat did it all in one day, and it was like 7 hours long, and it was long. There was a lot of talking, a lot of sitting back watching videos. Especially with me the second time around, I was so bored because I had already been through the process before. It was different companies, so they had different rules, but for the most part, everything was pretty straightforward, pretty standard. Um, Expect to fill out a lot of paperwork. You know, your insurance information, your bank info, etc. If you haven't already filled it out with the fleet owner, you're gonna fill out some paperwork in orientation. They're gonna show you um, how to work your com data card. They're gonna show you how to accept the load, what apps to download, how to negotiate your pay. They're gonna do so many how tos. Expect lunch because you're there all day. If if a company's not providing lunch in some form, that could be a good indicator of what things might be like. Um, and then you could possibly be eligible to go out on the road that day after orientation. With boat, I was able to go out on the road right after orientation. I got out of orientation about like 3 o'clock. About 5 o'clock, I had a load offer from Cleveland, Ohio, down to Hopkinsville, Kentucky. It's like a 600-mile run right off the bat. So you do have that option. Now, once you're out on the road, you got to be patient. That is key. You have to be patient because, believe it or not, you're not going to be running all the time. There's going to be a lot of times where you will be sitting. There will be a lot of times where you're going to have to deal with foolishness from dispatch, foolishness from the shipper, the receiver, but you have to remember to be patient because if you have a bad relationship with your dispatch, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to be sitting a lot, which is going to require more patience. So I think having patience and having communication is key. And along with other stuff, but definitely you need to have patience. Expect the unexpected. It's a lot of expects on this list because there's a lot of things you have to expect being an expediter. Expect the unexpected. What that means is don't expect to get to that shipper at 8 o'clock at night and leave right at 8. Don't expect to get there at 8 and leave at 8:30. There are times that you get there at 8, you got to be somewhere at 11, and you get there at 8, and that load isn't going to be ready for another 2 hours. Now you're going to be late. Or, better yet, you can get this load at 8 p.m., and you can make it at 11 p.m. before the last day of the pay period to send your paperwork in, and that load says that we're going to be 2 hours behind. So now you expected to get this extra 150, 180 miles on your check for that pay period, and now you won't get it because guess what? The shipper was late. It happens. Expect that to happen. Expect for you to be delayed for whatever reason. Expect delays while you're traveling. Expect dispatch to call you 50 million times about where you're at. Expect the shippers to be assholes. Expect the receivers to be assholes. Expect dispatch to be assholes. You have to expect that. You have to have, some cases you have to have a tough skin, but definitely expect the unexpected. Work smarter, not harder. I will explain that more on the next page. Expect to sleep at odd times. You're not going to always have a set schedule. Sometimes you're going to be able, like I said earlier, you're going to be able to go to sleep at 9 a.m., or I'm sorry, you're going to be able to wake up at 9 a.m., do your day, get done driving by 6, and then you're good for the rest of the night. There are times where you're gonna have to sleep during the day because you just drove all night. You know, sometimes you're only gonna get 2 hours of sleep before they call you. So with that said, expect to deliver loads 24 hours a day. Expect dispatch to call you right after you drove all night to give you another load. As long as you're not communicating with dispatch, they don't know you're tired. I mean, common sense would be they could look and be like, oh, this person just did 1,000-mile load straight. You know, let's not call him right away. They don't care. They want to get that freight through to you and to keep it moving. They know what you just did. But if you're not open enough to tell them that you're tired and you need some rest, they're going to keep giving you load after load after load after load. Expect your pay to be delayed. Now, that's not saying you won't get paid, but for example, with Bolt, your pay was always 2 weeks behind. So let's say today, for example, is May 6th and it's Monday. Monday is the last day of the pay period. How they did it was that starting Tuesday, that first week, they bill the shipper that first week. So from May 7th, or from May 7th, which is Tuesday, to May 12th, which is Monday, or I'm sorry, to May 13th, which is Monday, they tried to bill the shipper. When that week happens, the second week is when you get paid. So that means that on the 17th of May, you'll get paid for the loads that you did from May 6th back 7 days. So do keep that in mind, because when you get started, you won't get paid for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. You know, and it's not that you won't get paid, but your pay will be from loads 2 weeks ago. So expect that, because many people, you have to have a savings when you come out here at first. You have to have some type of money saved, because you won't be able to jump straight into Expedited and get paid the next week. You know, that's just not going to happen. Now, this right here, smart driver versus dumb ass driver, because they're out there. And what I mean by that, okay, so you got here the smart driver. He drove 1,000 miles this week. He made 85 cents a mile to the van, which paid it $850. He gets his 60-40 split, which is $510. The driver gets 15 miles to the gallon, which is about 67 gallons of fuel needed. The average amount of gas is $2.75, which comes out to $185 in fuel cost. Before any other expenses, the driver takes home $325. The driver saves all his receipts. The driver does his own bookkeeping. He puts up 20% for taxes, which is around about $100. Driver saves 10% for his rainy day funds, which is $50. Then he is left with $175 to carry over into the next week while accumulating savings. Now, you should always put up something for savings, because you're going to have a point in expediting where things are going to get slow. Right now, things are picking up, but just 3 months ago, things were slow, to the point where you may only get 2 or 3 loads a week. And you have to hope that within those 2 or 3 loads that you're getting a good amount of miles. Most cases you're not. That's where that savings kick in at. Because let's say it was slow January, February, and March, and April. If you save $50 every week each of those months, that's $800 in savings, you know, that you could dip into. But if you don't put that up for savings, when you hit a slow week, you're not going to have any money. So now this is the dumb driver. And you will see this a lot out there, especially if you're waiting in like Laredo, Texas, or El Paso. You will see this a lot. This driver took a 2,000-mile load, and I made it specifically to say out of Laredo, because you will see this a lot. in Laredo, in El Paso. I mean, you will see it basically anywhere, but you will really see it there. Um, he took a 2,000-mile load out of Laredo, which he accepted 40 cents a mile for this load. The van made $800. With his 60-40 split, he took home 480. 15 miles to the gallon, which he needed about 135 gallons filled up. At $2.75 a gallon, he spends about $370 in gas. Now, before any of his expenses, the driver left Laredo on that 2,000-mile trip only making $110. It happens, though. Believe it or not, you'll be surprised at how many cheap people that are out there that are willing to take freight for little or nothing. And remember, at the end of the day, we are in control. We hold this expediting world in the palm of our hands. Yes, the shipper has every right to ship off a load. The receiver has every right to receive a load. But who do you think is in that middle part? We are. If we don't ship the load, guess what happens? The load sits there. The reason why these shippers are getting away with shipping cheap freight, because there are people out there that are willing to accept cheap freight. People out there that are willing to take 40 cents a mile out of Laredo, out of El Paso. They want to take 40 cents a mile just so that they can get moving and they can rack up, 4,000 or 5,000 miles in a week. But the thing is, look at this. You got a person that's working twice as hard driving 2,000 miles at 40 cents a mile versus a person that's only driving 1,000 miles at 80 cents a mile, and they're both coming out making the same amount of money. But just because that driver wants to move, he's willing to take cheap freight. Shippers are loving that they can ship their freight for cheap, especially in Laredo. Now, in Laredo, there are a lot of people down there that would take next to nothing just to get out of there. And as long as that keeps happening, cheap freight is going to keep being offered down there. Companies are getting away with offering 60 cents a mile, because there are people that are willing to accept that. So remember, you are in charge of your pay. If you want to make more money, negotiate more money. You have to have an act to do that. Negotiate more money. If you don't, low rates are always going to be there. But I know this video was a little bit longer than it should have been, but I wanted to get it out there. That's how I got into expediting. If you remember these tips, I guarantee you will have a better time out there. It is a lifestyle, not a job. You will be much successful. And it's a life after expediting. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Any tips or suggestions you have, leave it in the comment box. And until next time, folks, take care.